lot of information at you, just a whole lot of information. So I want you to hopefully think, wow, I didn't know that. That's something new. And then I'll have done my job, right? So hopefully that's the case. The other is when we're done here, I'm going to put up my email and my phone number. And I want you to feel like you know me a lot better than you did when I first started. And I'm free answers for any questions you have after the presentation or via email or mobile phone. So we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. So for you to get to know me, let me do a little quick introduction. My name is Phil Pench. I work for DHL e-commerce. Try not to block the screen too much. 18 and a half years with UPS and 18 years with DHL e-commerce now. So you might be saying that's a long time, and it is. I'm still having fun. I was a speaker at the Prosper show in Vegas right before COVID, also the Retail Global show. And I study and collect wine. So if I'm not working, you might see me with a glass of wine on Instagram. Born and raised in Southern California, and I'm married 32 years. So as I was saying, 37 working, 32 may even seem longer. But I think I've done pretty good. I would say, just say yes. That's the success of being married 32 years. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to go over some consumer and some e-commerce trends. We're going to go over some 3PLs, third-party logistics companies, fulfillment houses, transportation costs. Going to do a short little segment called It's in the Delivery. And finally, I'll conclude with recommendations. So let's talk about consumer trend behaviors, consumer behavior trends. 3/4 of consumers continued shopping online after the pandemic. More than half purchased apparel online in the past year. 7 in 10 purchase something in a micro moment. And that micro moment is when you're sitting there looking at your phone and you say, oh my God, I feel like I want one of those. And then you start researching on that particular specific product and then you purchase it. 2/3 of shoppers conduct research online before they make a purchase. And there's a demographic alert. So those are the millennials. If you're ever trying to set up an online business, 25 to 34 years old, spend the most time on their phones and purchase the most product. So if you're going to ever do that, that's your target audience. And then maybe divorced 40-year-olds, that'd be second, spending a lot of time on their phones doing shopping. Okay, US online sales growth for the last 5 years. You're going to see a little blip and a little upswing like you just came from Utah, Bryce Canyon. Looks like one of those monuments. That's basically the spike during the pandemic when everybody was at home. Nobody was going anywhere. Everybody was purchasing everything online. So that surely leveled out to about an 8 or 9% growth level. And then retail sales was pretty flat. Obviously nobody going to retailers or brick and mortar retailers. So that was down to 1% in the last 5 years. Now, this might be a surprising fact to you. The percentage of online sales for US, everything purchased online compared to all sales, 15.6%, where a country like China is just about 50% of what they buy is online. So that tells you that there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of room to grow as far as online sales go. But we are, as a country, compared to our total retail sales, about 15%, 15.6% online sales. Okay, so delivery criteria. You as a shopper and a buyer getting a delivery, what's some of the criteria that's expected these days? What do you want? On time, okay, that's one. Anything else? Yeah. So I got 2 pens for you here whenever you want to come up. E-shoppers want it fast and free. Those are the top two, right? And they want it reliable. And they also want it green, which is the newest request out there. And there's a spin on carbon neutral reduction. So companies like REI, et cetera, that is also increasing the purchasing power for those companies. How fast? So we talked about everybody wants it fast, right? But what this slide basically says is somebody like an Amazon that started Prime delivery, everything had to be 2 days or 3 days. That was the norm. I can't tell you how many companies I saw out there that ran out, signed up a whole bunch of, opened up a whole bunch of distribution centers to try to be close to consumers. That's very costly, and it doesn't always work out too well. So you burned up a whole bunch of money, opening up 8 or 10 DCs to be close in every quadrant of the country, and then it failed. So the bigger the retailer, the higher the expectation for you as a consumer buying goods online. So if they're smaller, it's not just 2 to 3 days, it could be 5 days. 5 days is okay. And I'll actually talk about even getting slower, which is this trend that's changing. So you can't do an e-commerce supply chain presentation without talking about Amazon. And the first thing is, for this the third pen, what percent of Amazon source goods are from China? Somebody? 70? You said 70, right? That's your pen. 70%. There's another little drop in here, and it just basically says Amazon tripled its shipping volumes. So as you know, or as you may not know, they're into the delivery business now. They're offering businesses rates for shipping their online sale products. It's tripled, but the revenue is still far behind UPS and FedEx. But we don't know, in terms of the catch-up, how long that's going to take. And that was by Brinley Heinemann of FreightWaves, her article. So not that anybody knows Brinley. Now, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, could the race be slowing? There's a few companies out there that are creating this slowdown. And the US consumer's appetite is voracious on purchasing these products because you can buy a swimsuit, a top, a skirt, a dress, men's clothing as well for $10 to $15. How do they do this? It's manufactured in China, comes over under de minimis 321 clearance if it's under $800, and these companies are able to do this. So last pen that I have, I'm going to ask one more question. You got to yell this answer out so I hear you first. What is the top most downloaded app on the iOS platform? I have to exclude Android, but top Temu, correct. That was a little hint because it was on the screen. So maybe it's hard to believe because somebody might think it's Instagram, it's Facebook, but it's actually Temu. 320 million downloads in 2023. Pretty incredible numbers. So now these people have to import their merchandise, and they're getting it under the 321 clearance program or de minimis program. That's blown up. That's a huge trend. That's 1 million packages for 2023. Sorry, 1 billion, not a million, 1 billion. 1 billion packages. So that consumer appetite, like I said, is ferocious for purchasing all that product and bringing it in. Now there's some House representatives out there that are trying to cancel that program because they say the United States is not getting their tax and duty on this sold product. But we'll see. I think the consumer basically has the word. You're the ones purchasing the product. You want to purchase it for less. We'll see what happens out of that. But the Sheins and the Temus continue to grow. All right, if anybody thinks this is Australia, you're in the wrong show. All right? It's actually the US, and the red parts there, the red doppels, if you will, That's the most concentrated population area in the US. So if I was to draw, this is a real surprising fact that people don't realize, if I was to draw a black line like that up the middle of the country, the right side of the US, 80% of the US population. 80%. So, rightly so, the other side's 20, right? And out of that 20, 11% is in those three coastal states, California, Oregon, and Washington. So if you're opening up a business, you're gonna sell things online and you're gonna ship product. I still run into companies that started up, they get their product in to the LA port, they open up a distribution center in California. Pretty expensive, right? All your zones are the longest, most expensive zones to get to that 80% of the population. So you really need to regionalize, get closer to those people that are purchasing your product. It doesn't have to be you purchasing the DC, it could be a 3PL or a fulfillment house. They basically have a lot of locations that you can attach into, but you want to keep your zones shorter, which is regionalization. So you don't want to pay long zones. If you're real small, you're probably going to have to do that, but there's many carrier alternatives that I'll show you real quick as we go through. These are some, not all, of the third-party logistics and fulfillment choices in the US. Pay particular attention to the bottom left of the screen. That's the 321 clearance fulfillment houses that are on the border in Mexico. So if you're receiving product into the LA port, that can't transfer down in bond into Mexico, and then they can fulfill your product duty-free and at a Mexican labor rate, which is probably, I don't know, $5 to $7 an hour. Maybe it's $9 an hour now. That fulfillment house is going to have an uncomparable offer compared to other fulfillment houses in the US. So there's three of them, XB, Baja, and G Global, that do that. You probably have to be doing at least 1,000 or 2,000 pieces a day. You really need a container to start doing that, but that's where you want to aim to as you grow your e-commerce business. Now, if any of you are shareholders in anything, you want yield, you want profit, there's the ugliest word in logistics and distribution. Anybody know what that is? Surcharges. This could equal or surpass the actual rate you're paying. So, I'm not picking on Big Brown because I was there a long time, I'm still a shareholder, but it's on their website in black and white and brown. And a month ago, they announced that they would change the zip codes for delivery area surcharges. That's in the middle of the year where the rate the rate changes are usually December or January, but they can do this. So can FedEx, and so can many carriers. So they're changing the zip codes for a delivery area surcharge, which just makes that package that much more expensive. So you need to be educated on being able to negotiate with the carriers. You can also use the freight management companies. There's two of them here, which I'll show you in just a moment. And then effective June 17th, which isn't even here yet, they're going to change zip code pairs. That means the zip code you ship from, the zip code you ship to, will now be a different zone, likely a more expensive and a higher zone. So if they can't get you on a rate increase, they get you this way. So you got to be knowledgeable and constantly negotiating on this. This is on track. They're a great regional carrier, but holy moly, $5.70 and $7.70 a package for surcharges. I remember when the rates were like $5 or $7. So this is what gets added on after. So if you're reselling a product, you got to make sure that this is the total rate, right? The rate card that you get from a carrier is not your final rate. because in many cases, a week or two later, you'll get that added on delivery area surcharge. So you got to be careful. A little bit more. Surcharges can be intimidating and difficult to calculate. There's delivery area surcharge, extended delivery area surcharge. There's fuel surcharges that are weekly. There's a peak or demand peak or demand charge, which came out for peak season because the cost was higher, and then they said, oh, we're going to keep it in place until further notice. So they don't go away. Surcharges can be more than half of the total rate. They can and should be negotiated. I'll keep repeating that. That's all yield and profit. So it's kind of like being in Vegas. If you don't ask, you don't get it. So you can do it yourself. If you have enough volume for negotiation, you can hire a consultant or a transportation spend expert. I think Mike here in the back there, AFMS. AFMS or Shipware. That's the two companies that are here. Or you can engage with the 3PL, third-party logistics company, or a fulfillment house, and they've got their own rates, and they'll negotiate those with you. And they'll also spread your inventory to lower your zones and regionalize. So now, by show of hands, would you rather have your package delivered on the porch? Some people like that, there's no wrong answer. Or would you rather have it delivered in a lockbox? Which one? The porch. Porch deliveries, how about the lockbox? More expensive? I still can't hear you. Oh, yeah. If it's low value, yeah. There is no wrong answer, but things are more secure delivered in the lockbox. Now, what percent do you think of people have been affected by porch pirates or theft on deliveries porches in the U.S.? 60? No, that's pretty high. 30? That's closer. It's 24%. And the guy that stole the package off your porch probably doesn't look like that, but 24%. InsuranceQuotes.com. Another interesting fact. USPS is a government agency, so if they're delivering the package or if you're using a work share partner that's giving it to the USPS, that's delivering it, fraud there in that activity is a felony. If you have fraud with UPS or FedEx, it's usually a misdemeanor, unless it's real high value. So there's many companies in their customer service department that use this to lower their claims, because their customers will be, oh, it's a felony. Oh yeah, you know what, I did get that package. So, and then solutions are rapidly changing. So there's going to be a lot of different delivery providers last mile that are really getting robust solutions. Free signature delivery image, they're taking a picture of the porch. Amazon does that right now, right? They take a picture of the package on the porch at no extra charge. No delivery area surcharges and things like that. So there's going to be many more final mile delivery options in the future. There's the carrier delivery landscape. You recognize most of those. What I was just talking about in the bottom right corner, those are the last mile providers. So if companies are efficient enough to do the sorting by zip code, by quadrant of the country, they give it to them and then they deliver it. It could be an Uber driver that does that. And then during the pandemic, capacity dried up. So there was a big shift in companies going to multiple carriers. You can't just use one anymore. And if you do, and the customer says, oh, I'm tied up in my commitment, so I can't do anything else. And that's exactly what they want you to say. So avoid getting tied up in a high commitment, high revenue tier, because you think you're getting a good deal. Diversify your carrier mix. So I'll summarize here with recommendations. Again, diversify your carry usage to their strengths. Somebody's good at regional deliveries, somebody's good at rural deliveries, somebody's good at over 5-pound packages, somebody's good at under 5-pound packages. So you can split that up if you have enough volume. Always negotiate surcharges. Again, most of it's pure profit. They're added on over time and never taken away. So these can be negotiated if you have enough volume. If importing your products, you should be looking at 321 clearance or de minimis program. That's less than $800 per order if manifested individually to that consumer, or if it's product coming in and comes down in bond across the border if you choose a company in Mexico. Either way, it's tax and duty free. Create free shipping programs to increase orders or sales. Understand your shipping cart abandonment. There's companies out there like SimilarWeb that can help you understand if you have a website, why is somebody going onto your website and then the order's gone, they bail out of there. Is it the shipping cost? What is it? You can find that out. And then negotiate those revenue tiers. You don't have to be at X, you could be at Y for the same amount of discount. You can leverage that, you just have to be stern with the carriers. Or you can go to the other carrier. So you'll get the deal done. For lightweight packages, 1 ounce to 5 pounds, use a work share provider. So a work share provider is somebody that works with the USPS behind you. They usually make the final mile delivery. And you're avoiding all those surcharges. You're avoiding any extra charges. In some cases, there's no fuel. So look into that if you're not doing that, especially for lightweight packages. And that's it. I thank you for your time. We've got about 8 minutes for questions. And then, of course, I'll be over here for a little bit if you have more questions. Anybody have any? For those that answered correctly, come up and get your beautiful Italian